This beautiful vintage chair was given to me recently by my friend Gigi. She's a fellow Toronto-based leatherworker and makes really nice stuff. The tag on the chair says that it was made in 1974 by the Krug Furniture Company in Kitchener, Ontario. I don't know a ton about vintage furniture, but to me, this chair seems to be mid-century modern in style. Although, considering it was made in the 70s, maybe it's more mid-century modern inspired. I think the chair is made out of walnut, and finish-wise, it's in really good shape. However, the chair does need some repairs. The left armrest is loose in 2 places and needs a dowel completely replaced. One of the legs is pretty loose and it looks like a mortar has come almost completely free. And the biggest thing is one of the side pieces on the seat has a big crack running through it. So this chair is about 40 years old, and honestly, I think it looks really good as is. I'm not going to try to do any restoring of any of the finishes, but I am going to fix the chair and really try to minimize the visual impact of any of those repairs so that I can use it in my apartment and so that it can last another 40 years. So let's start with taking this apart. So in each corner of the seat assembly, there are these triangular pieces held in with screws. And as I'm going to take it apart, the first thing I notice is these star screw heads. So my knee-jerk reaction when I saw these is that they were Torx heads. If you look closely, you'll see that they actually have 8 points, not the 6 associated with Torx heads. So after a quick Google search, I found out that you can actually just use a Robertson head on these, since this 8-pointed star shape is actually just made of 2 squares, one rotated 45 degrees. So luckily I didn't have to buy a whole new bit set. There actually are some missing screws, but those will be easy enough to replace. I took all the screws out of these triangular pieces and it seems like they're still glued on, but hopefully that will give me a bit of give to glue together the other broken pieces. So with the seat gone, now you can really see the extent that this is just totally cracked. And I actually think I'm going to use that bit of movement I have to drill out this hole and replace the dowel, because if I glue this and fix it first, I won't have any leeway to move this piece. So I'll tackle that first. So this hole measures at about, 7/16. I'm going to upsize that hole to a 1/2 inch and then re-dowel this joint. Nice. This part's going to be a little tricky because I can't fully take off the arm to drill out this hole. It looks like it's held in the back with a screw, and the screw head is hidden by a plug. I don't really want to remove the plug and have to replace them, so I'm just going to try to drill this in place. I should have enough wiggle room to get in there, but if not, we'll reevaluate. I'm going to do a really gradual step up of this just so I make sure I stay centered in that hole. Start off on a good note. Take off about 3/4 of an inch. So this mortise and tenon became unglued at some point, and because there's the extra give from the crack right here, this actually can pop all the way out, and I don't really want to push any further because it's still semi-attached and it's just splintering more and more. So I'll just try to add the glue right there and then pop this back in. In the process of separating that mortise and tenon completely, I did end up totally separating these 2 pieces. Not the end of the world. I guess it actually will make it a little easier to get glue in there. I think it is ready to be glued up. Now I know glue ups have a stereotype of being stressful, but I feel like this one is especially finicky. I'm gonna try to get glue on every surface that needs to be glued before adding any clamps, because I kind of need everything to still be a little broken and flexible to get glue onto the surfaces that need to be glued and squeeze everything together. It's kind of a paradox. After doing a couple of bent lamination projects, I'm a bit less scared of glue setting up quickly since I have some experience of really pushing the limits. But already got glue on a nice finished surface. That's why I keep around some wet rags. Anyways, but still gonna try to work relatively quickly. Okay, there's one. Hello. This is sort of the part of the glue up that I was the most nervous about, so. But now that they are completely detached, it should be a lot easier to get the glue in there. Okay. That looks very scary. Alright, this is going to be a little tricky because I have to kind of push this down and in multiple directions. Alright, I think that is ready to be clamped. Try to wipe off as much of the glue as I can as I go before there's clamps everywhere in the way. So it's a bit hard clamping to this back surface because it's sloped. So I'll see if I can wedge something in there. I probably should have started by clamping this since it's been the oldest glue that's been applied, but I think I still have a bit of time. I think I'd like to add one more clamp in there just to make sure the end is really tightly together. Nice. I think that third clamp was a good idea. And the final clamp, at least for now. Get my wet rag. I really want to avoid having to apply any finish on this because working in your apartment, it's not the best place to start having to mess around with noxious chemicals. But if I had a workshop, refinishing this would be probably a really good project. I'm going for more of the low impact. All right, so it's all clamped up. I ended up using a piece of folded leather here since these two legs are not parallel. So this side of the clamp kept wanting to slide up the leg. Doesn't need a ton of pressure this way. That was more to just align the grain. And then these clamps holding it together should take up a lot of the slack in aligning the grain pattern. So it's hard to check for square on this chair since there's a lot of non-parallel elements. It does seem like the armrest and the front leg, as well as this apron piece and the front leg, should be square to one another. Unfortunately, it's a little hard to check for square because my clamps are in the way. I can just get in at this location to check for square and just kind of feel where the shoulder of my speed square meets this side piece, and feels pretty good. I'm not super concerned about checking this for square since I'm matching up all machined faces. It's been about an hour, so the glue should be dry enough for me to remove the clamps. All right, this side piece went together really nicely. You can barely see the seam. I thought I'd have to come back with some glue and masking tape and kind of push any splinters that got pushed out back in. There are some slightly raised portions along the seam, like right here, but there's not really any splinters that are sticking out noticeably and have to be pushed back in. You can barely see where the splinter was on the top of this piece. Obviously it's a little messier on the inside because this whole big splinter was missing, but this will all be hidden by the seat, so I'm okay with how this looks as is. So I think this piece is all set. It looks like the gap between the front leg and the armrest closed up pretty nice as well, and that mortise and tenon looks essentially perfect. So the only thing left that's not 100% is this left arm. I reattached the arm right here, but if you remember, this back part was also loose. And if I try to wiggle it, there is still a bit of give. I'm guessing it's just attached by a screw or a bolt through here, and that just has become loose over time. But I don't really want to go trying to remove this plug or drilling in a screw at an awkward angle and having to cover that up with a dowel or something. It seems pretty solid as is. I'm a little worried that because that back isn't solid, the front might fail over time, but I'm willing to cross that bridge when I come to it and just leave this as is for now. The legs and seat assemblies seem really solid. I don't think they need any adjustments, so I should be all set to reattach those screws that go between those triangle corner brackets and the seat assembly. Looking through my screws, I found some that were pretty similar to the ones that were missing. So all in all, not a crazy complicated repair job. I really like doing chair repairs because they're really satisfying, don't take a ton of time, and I always learn something while fixing a chair. My grandma had a beautiful mid-century modern home, so I really have a soft spot for mid-century modern design. In a quick Google search, I found one chair that looks pretty similar, although it looks like the owner reupholstered it with like a bright pink and white. I really like the green and walnut brown aesthetic, so I'm just gonna keep it as is. Thanks for watching, and be sure to check out the rest of my channel as well as subscribe. I have videos about making all sorts of stuff. If you really love my videos and are looking to support in another way, I recently launched my Patreon page. I'll put a link to that in the description, so check it out if you're interested. Have a great day.